Here's a crafty treat to bring Halloween glamour to your indoor decor. It's a Tombstone diorama.
I got this set of tombstones at Walmart, a set of 6, so 3 larger ones and 3 smaller ones. And I like this in particular because the larger ones are already faux painted in a way that I think is pretty good just as is. So these tombstones have come from Dollar Tree. So they're $1.25 a piece, which is pretty good. There are 4 styles to choose from, and I went ahead and bought all 4. And today we're going to turn them into shadow boxes. So what I have here is a hot wire cutter. This is something that's really, really useful when you're working on a project like this. Of course, if you don't have it, you can use an X-Acto blade. This is a pretty good cut. A little bit of unevenness there, but that's all right because it's supposed to look distressed. I'm not really concerned about it. Now, of course, you can cut these with a really sharp knife, but the thing is you have to hold it at just the right angle or it'll make the foam kind of tear into itself. I'm going to go ahead and do another one. So I have this box that I got at the grocery store that they throw out, and they're more than happy to give them to you. Costco does that too, and I am a big collector of their boxes. So this just happens to be about the right width for this tombstone frame. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay out exactly how high and mark what the top of the box would be, maybe just a little more than. I just have to decide which shadow box I want this to go to. It fits pretty much all of them. The only detail on this is the fact that you're going to have these corners sticking out, which actually is not a bad little design interest, particularly once you put some light in the box and light comes through at the top there. Here it is, our custom shaped box. It's just as deep as all the others, as you can see. And once we go ahead and paint the inside and the outside back, however we're going to finish it, we're ready to put all sorts of fun little Halloween scenes inside. We're going to paint the back and we're going to paint the inside black. I'm going to be using this apple barrel paint again. This is a matte acrylic paint, which is great. It does dry fast, like it says. It won't get the cardboard too wet, which you want to avoid getting it too wet. This is from Walmart, the best, least expensive product I could find anywhere. I'm going to cut pieces of my black poster board that I'm going to cover the outside with. So this is just an extra step that'll make it look extra nice because the sides of our boxes are about 5 inches in depth. I'm going to go ahead and cut my long pieces about 6 inches. Gives us about an inch that will actually stick out of the top of the box. I'm going to go ahead, cut these out, and you'll see why I'm doing that once I get to gluing these. veneers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and line it up with that bottom edge, and we'll glue this down. Now I really want to do these all in one piece, so what I'll probably do is cut it off here across, do a piece across the top, and then do another piece across the side and the bottom. So you can see here that there's more than an inch. This is my most shallow shadow box. I will probably trim some of this away. But what I'm going to do once this is glued on is I will fold it in rather open face. So what you have is that overlap on the inside of the box. And the reason is that gives us something to glue our tombstone onto on the inside. It would be really difficult to get this to stick appropriately. So that way you have a really secure hold on the tombstone. We're folding it in because our tombstone frame sits on the inside of our box. Sort of a dry fitting. And what I'm going to do is match this up with the outside edge. And as you can see, I've done a pretty good matchup here on the edge of my tombstone all the way around. Something that's really important to be aware of while you're doing this is that you want the box to be straight across and level with your tombstone. So the bottom of the box, so that this shelf actually sits very straight in there. Because what you don't want is for the tombstone to look straight on the wall, but that bottom shelf to be crooked, and anything that you put in there ends up leaning to one side or the other. You want to make really sure as you're going along that you're matching up at the back, at the bottom. Just be aware of that. There are some flaws on the outside. I don't know if you can see that crease, but it sort of adds to the tombstoniness of it. And this one I did all the way to the bottom of the box. So you do have several inches of space in there that if you're going to put something in here, then it's important that you see the bottom part of it. You're obviously going to have to put some little riser down, but I didn't want to cut out these skulls. I thought they were so interesting. And because this one goes all the way to the bottom, it's already made to stand straight up on a counter. What I am doing now is I'm going back and using the sea sponge to sort of dull down a lot of the white that is on here. So I'm just going to lightly sponge paint around all of this. There is no method to my madness. I'm just doing whatever, sort of covering most of the white. I feel like the white is really, really stark. And I'm also going along the sides, adding some texture even in the black. But depending on where you display them or how you display them, like if this ends up sitting on a tabletop, you want it all to be cohesive and finished on all sides. What I have done is I've taken this pewter gray. Again, this is the Apple Barrel matte pewter gray that I got at Walmart. And I am going along and I've just been sponge painting my next layer, and a little bit of dry brushing, but not really much. I'm using the brush to get into those places that I can't reach with the sponge. I did decide to go back and add a little more highlights, this time of white, again with our rule of three, black, white, and gray. And there were some that were looking flat. So I'm going back in now and I'm just adding some white to add a little bit of texture on this, get some of those areas to pop a little bit more, looking a little more alive. That brought my skulls back out, my gargoyles if that's what they are, or squirrels. So what I've done is I determined exactly where the chain needed to go, or approximately where the chain needed to go. If you put it too close to the back, it won't balance right when there isn't anything in it. If you put it too close to the front, the same thing, the bottom of the box will want to kick forward. So I determined about 1.5 inches was right, and about 1/2 inch down. So I've marked that with my marker. Now I'm going to go ahead, punch a hole all the way through, right where that's going to need to go. So the next thing is I've taken my wire, some good thick craft wire, and I'm taking a button. The reason I'm using a button to string this wire through is because if you put the wire with 2 holes through the cardboard, or just 1 wire, however you decide to do it, if you weren't going to use the button, the wire will actually end up pulling through. I'm going to twist this around to make sure that the button is pretty secure. And then I'm going to feed that through, which is easier to do when you can see the light coming through. There it is. I'm now going to take my chain. I've already attached the first side. And what I want to do is make sure that my chain is laying flat in the same direction, moving all the way the length of the chain so that it doesn't appear twisted once you hang this. Perfect. The chain is attached. I will go back with my black paint and touch up the areas inside that I've marred along the process so they're a good solid black. I'll go ahead and paint those buttons and do any touch-up work on the outside. You could go back and seal with a clear acrylic. You could use a spray either in a matte, or if you want a glossy finish, I'd sort of advise against the glossy finish. It takes away from the aged look of it all. It's acrylic paint. It's not necessary to seal this, but if it makes you feel better, go ahead and do it.